So, welcome to the next episode of our Women in BPM interview series. This series intends to inspire, to encourage people, especially women, with story and insights from how they work in business process management. And we further see rising number of women in tech and in BPM. They lead huge projects, they inspire their peers, and they pave the way for our future. In this episode, you will hear about what drives them, who supported them on their way, what tips they may have, and why they find processes so fascinating. So today, it's my pleasure to have you, Veronika Ellermann, with me. I'm happy to have you as you are working in the BPM Methods and Tools department at Phoenix Pharma Handel. Phoenix Pharma Handel is a leading healthcare provider in Europe. And welcome, Veronika, at first.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Thanks for taking the time to talk with me. As a starter, I would like you to tell me or tell us a little bit more about your background and what you do today at Phoenix.
Okay, so I would start with the beginning of my professional career, which actually started in 2007. And since 2009, I'm basically working in the domain of business process management. And basically for more than half of the time, I've also been working with ARIS. I had some great managers who really taught me lots about process management. And I really like my job a lot because I can interact so much with people from different countries, from different departments. You get to know so many different cultures, so many different types of people. It's just amazing. And well, trying to convince them to really follow processes and also open their heart for process management is actually what I like really a lot about my profession here. And in my current position, I support the organization with all sorts of matters related to our BPM tool ARIS. And I also organize and manage some, well, proof of concept projects in the domain of process mining, for instance, or GRC. I help my colleagues to model their processes. I ensure that proper governance is established. And there are just so many things that I take care of, just too many to name them all.
You mentioned as we were preparing this interview that you are the kind of the process concierge of the company. How do you mean that one? I love it.
That was actually a title given to me by one of my previous managers. He was also always saying it's like in German Prozesshausmeister, because you do everything that is related to process management. So it's not only that you map them or that you, I don't know, train processes, but you really have the end-to-end view, just like a housekeeper, basically, who also knows about the entire chain.
And that, yes?
No, go ahead.
and that underlines what we sometimes say, passion for processes. So the process concierge needs this passion and needs to understand them deeply, but wants to make the processes go further within the company, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of evolving, I guess. So you start typically relatively small with processes, so you only have few people to talk to, and the longer you do it, the more people you actually have and the wider their requirements become. So after 2 years within my employer, we have also implemented an interface to our DMS system. And so my area of responsibility just increases. Like the longer I stay with the company, the more I have to do.
Which is a good sign, by the way. Yeah, how many people are using your BPM, your ARIS, basically within the company?
That's kind of a tough question. We are located in 26 countries, and we have 126 designers. And with the viewers, I have to be honest, I don't know the exact numbers, but the last time that I checked, we were a bit more than 500.
Oh, cool. So many people.
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe coming back to you being, well, basically in some kind of IT BPM role, why did you choose this job, this specific job? So specific reasons on how you wanted to get involved in that?
I guess I personally, I don't like jobs where I get bored easily. So I don't like doing the same stuff over and over and over again. This is something that I personally, I cannot handle. So I was looking for something like where I could get deeper insights into the various departments. And well, process management was just the perfect match, I would say. I did a I don't know the English word, like duales Studium in English, in German.
Do everything studies?
Yeah, yeah. So basically, I was working while I was studying, and at that time, I didn't have really a fixed department with my previous employer. And so I was kind of staying in one department for 2 to 3 months and then just checking out other departments. So it's kind of comparable to a traineeship, I would say.
Yeah.
And during that time, I got to know the organization department. That is what it was called at my first employer. And I was fascinated by what they were doing. They were drawing these graphs in ARIS. It was like a really old version of ARIS back then. And it was so structured, and it created a benefit for people because you were able to identify interfaces, to clarify interfaces. So I felt, well, first of all, it's not a boring job. You get to know many people, you can talk to many people, you get to know how they work, what they do. And it's like working in a structured way is just awesome for me because I also tend to be really structured. And so it was just a perfect match for me to go into the organization department and do process management.
Yeah, I think from what you say, indeed, that's the perfect base because you like the structure and you need change, and processes are structured, but indeed they change all the time because with every regulation change, with every product change, with every organizational change, you need to change the processes. So you're transforming all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what indeed fascinates you most about that? So is it more the structure or more this, it is always different and we talk to different people at any time and we're transforming all the time?
It's more we're transforming all the time.
All right. So I can feel the passion about process transformation, basically, in what you say. And talking about processes, because it's always, well, I know that from my private life, sometimes it's not easy to explain people what do you do for a living, yeah? And how do you explain that to, to your family or to your sister you mentioned before? What do you do and what a process basically is?
I mean, I also do process management trainings here at Phoenix. And typically what I like to take is like the process of how to prepare coffee or how to make coffee. And because this is something that, well, basically everyone is some sort of familiar with. And it's a structured sequence of activities that creates an input into an output. And it depends on the type of process that you have. Those processes can be partially automated, so tools can run single process steps within your sequence. You can have fully manual process steps. And basically what the process tells you the way of how to achieve a specific outcome.
Yeah.
And that starts from your desire to drink some coffee. Like, what do you need to do in order to get the cup of coffee?
Yeah,
with
the
or without
triggering
milk?
event and
Yeah.
the outcome, basically,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
And looking at what you are doing right now, so why would Phoenix need a person like you? What would you say then?
To help people understand the necessity of implementing processes to support the quality management efforts, so that we comply to the different regulations and standards and so forth.
Yeah, and I think that's a big role indeed. Yeah, and from what I heard, you do it pretty right, because I also heard that you have some kind of an internal BPM community. What's that? Tell me more.
So we have kind of our company internal Facebook group, where I keep everyone posted. I try to have everyone connect from one country to another, so that everyone knows what process management efforts are taken currently. And I also inform my community about updates that we plan for ARIS, like when we go to the latest release, which new features are coming. So I try to really put some marketing efforts also into this community, because I guess it's all about fostering this community thinking and helping others, and telling people about great things, I would say.
Yeah, and change management and communication are key to make people work like you, or like they need to work, and to follow the processes that have been decided.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
having a community, I think, is key. Talking about community, do you think in that regard the collaboration also, not only from you to the people, but between the people, how do you see that? Is this key from your perspective?
When you have a good set of processes, it indeed is. But when you get started, I guess there is not so much of a community thinking, because everyone is trying to, get their first models created to survive the initial process management steps. I don't know.
Yeah.
And but then in the end, like, the more interfacing processes you create, the more relevant this community thinking gets. Also, when it comes to thinking about process variants, I mean, maybe you want to standardize and harmonize your processes, but you need to have an active community to get that going. That's at least my personal thinking here. It's not such a good idea to have people just follow one specific process variant because you want them to, but it's more about convincing and talking to people that it may be a good idea to stick to one variant rather than having 2 or 3. So,
oh gosh, you already answered one of my questions.
Oh no!
No, that's good. No, because I was just thinking about our next step in the interview, which is this and that game. And I'm going to start it right now, because that fits very well to what you just said. Because one of the this or that question is standardization or localization. And that fits to what you just said with the variants.
Yeah, I would say both. I mean, as little variance as possible and as much standardization as possible, but I would really put it to a reasonable degree. It's not for the sake of standardization, but it's like really for creating a benefit.
Yeah,
that's what I would focus on.
Great answer. Next question on this or that. Family trip or business trip?
Depends on where we go.
So mountain or sea?
Mountain, I would say, yeah.
Okay. So you like traveling, right?
Yeah, I do a lot.
All right. And the next one is a very standard one, but because everyone likes it, I proceed with this one, EPC or BPMN?
EPC for sure.
Why
Not a
that?
question about that.
Why?
Because most processes that we model or that we map are related to interactions of people, and interactions require many different roles, and you want to illustrate who is responsible for a specific task, who is being consulted, who must be informed, and maybe even who is accountable. And my personal thinking here is that that can be done best using EPC. BPMN, I would mostly use it for like application workflows, like where you only focus on the executor and where all other information is not so relevant.
Yeah, makes sense. Last questions on that. Books or videos?
Books.
What do you like to read?
Totally depends on the mood that I'm in.
Okay.
Currently, I'm reading lots on process management, I have to say, and on cultural topics.
Cultural change. Cool.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm in the process of doing a PhD in the domain of process adherence. So I'm trying to identify cultural factors that have an impact on process adherence.
That's a good one. I will make a note.
Yeah.
Now coming back to the more overall questions, because I mean, I saw you on stage, I saw you at the conference, and well, I know the story of Phoenix and what you do there. So I would argue you are very successful in what you do and how you position BPM within the company. So what would you attribute your success in that regard to?
That's a good question. I think I'm really very service oriented. So whenever people have questions, I help them out really quickly. So when I, for instance, open a ticket at our local service desk, it sometimes takes a week until I get feedback. That annoys me to death. And if I receive questions from my colleague, I typically try to answer those within 1 or 2 hours. And so that is really a great factor of my success, I would say, that I'm really very responsive and that people know that they can rely on me and that I deliver what I promise and that I do not overpromise something. So I guess that's about it. And I'm kind of passionate about my job. I like it. And it's not that I wake up in the morning and say, oh no, not processes again, go away. So it's the exact opposite. Every morning I like getting up and just checking out the processes that people have modeled. Earlier this morning, we were mapping a cloud process. And that is something totally new for me. And it was kind of interesting to see which steps they are taking. Yep. So I like my job.
Yeah, you can feel the passion. So first thing in the morning, you think about processes. The first one being the coffee process, and then the company processes, right?
Yeah, exactly. The only part of my process that is like kind of unwilling is my dog. So he's not very controllable, I would say.
The dog process is a good one too. How to get out with a dog and optimize this one, right?
Yeah, but trust me, I have tried so much. He just in the morning, like when it's early, like 6 or 7ish, he just likes to stay in bed, and I'm like, come on, let's go. And he's like,
it's time.
Nah, you can go without me.
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned a little bit about your career or how you went into the topic at Phoenix too. But did you get specific help along the way? Was there someone who was pushing you and that made it happen somehow with you, of course?
That's a good question. I would say I'm really very much self-driven.
Okay.
But I have to count my third manager. He was really awesome. I learned so much from him, not only in the sense of process management, but also in all those how to say that kind of subdomains like process improvements, process improvement stuff. So for instance, and this is something that I still like doing today, whenever I see a really poor process, I try to sit down with the people and find ways for how to optimize their process. And, you know, many processes are still kind of Excel based, and sometimes it's just about copying one column to another.
Yeah.
And this is something that I really learned from that manager, because he taught me macro programming in Excel.
Oh.
And yeah, that's really awesome. And yeah, that's something that I even do today, and people really appreciate it when we talk about their processes and I see all those manual copying steps. Then we just sit down and, well, organize it, and in the end they get a macro that can do the job that they have been done for I don't know how many years in way less time. So that is something that that manager taught me. And also, I guess it was him who actually fed my passion for programming, I would say. So, so yeah, it was with him that we started scripting our own reports in ARIS. So he was a really great mind. He was so bright. He could actually just read the reports and know what to do. And yeah, that was really brilliant.
2 last questions, I would say. What do you think in the area of BPM or BPM related will be the next hot topic? So what will everyone discuss about in some years or months?
My PhD thesis on process management.
Cool. Once you're done, you need to share with me.
Yeah, I will.
And very last question. What would you advise yourself to your younger you? You know, if you were to get back some years ago, what would you tell yourself as an advice?
Good question. Maybe not to take everything so seriously and have more fun.
Perfect one. I take it. All right. So thanks a lot, Veronika. I really appreciate our small talk and yeah, between business and private things. I think it was a good mixture today. So thanks a lot again.
You're welcome.
So to everyone, yeah, taking the time to follow this series of Women in BPM, thanks for being there. Thanks for following us. And also thanks for bringing new ideas on women I can talk to. I think this one is a pretty exciting one. And well, we get a lot of positive feedback, so we'll keep going. Yeah, and we see you in the next episode. Thank you and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.